Here we go. All right, everybody. So welcome to Stretch Leadership, Personality, and the Power of the Platinum Rule. So let's get started. I'm Dr. Cris Wildermuth. I'm a professor of leadership at Barry University. And this webinar is part of the Mastering Leadership and Technology Essentials, which I've been running throughout the year. At the end of the webinar, I'll tell you what the next one is. And the idea behind these little programs is to make them super short. We end at exactly 12:30. I'm keeping time over here. So it's like little bits of information that you can get in half an hour. And if you're interested in the SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management credit, you will earn 0.5 credits for this session. If you have no idea what the heck that is, don't worry, it probably does not apply to you. A little fun tidbit that has absolutely nothing to do with the Platinum Rule, but it has to do with technology, is that this picture that you see out there is a picture of me. It's exactly a picture of me, but I used AI Gemini to move where my eyes were looking so that the eyes would look straight forward instead of looking like a selfie. So there, just a little technology thing. This is me. So I work at Barry University, as I said, in the School of Business and Public Administration. And I live in Kissimmee, Florida, 15 minutes from the parks. This is me and my daughter Maggie at Hollywood Studios, and I go to the park all the time. So that's just a little bit about me. And this is about the program where I teach the Master in Leadership and Innovation, which I direct. And then I also direct the bachelor's in organizational leadership. So if you're interested in any of that, just get in touch with me after the program. A few other tidbits. This presentation is being recorded, and I will be sending a link to the slides and to the recording in about 24 hours. It takes me just a little while to get everything edited and so on before I can send. The SHRM number will be shared at the end of the session, but I'm also going to, those of you who actually registered so that I have that you came in through your registration, then I will have a report and then I can send you the SHRM number. Otherwise, I will be sharing the SHRM number at the end. And if you don't receive the email because something goes wrong and your name was not in there, whatever happened in the weird Teams report, just send me an email at cwildermuth@barry.edu and I'll send you the number or anything else that I need. And I'm showing this to you now, and I'll show it again at the end, which is where you can find these slides. So if you want to take your phone and find where they are, but don't worry if you can't get to this right now, because when you receive that message that I'm going to be sending everybody afterwards, I'm also going to send the link to the slides. Okay. And finally, last announcement before we officially start, I promise. When I run these sessions, I use something called Canva Live. Canva is the software that I'm using for this presentation, which I love. And what I love about Canva Live is that since I'm running the session and I'm trying to coordinate presenting and looking at your questions at the same time, I get to see your questions right away and your comments right away. So it makes it super easy for me to facilitate. So if you will be so kind, I'm going to start Canva Live. You go to canva.live. There's going to be a little session code for you to enter, and then you can use it throughout the session. Now, with that said, if I don't get to answer a question because there wasn't time, please feel free to write me and I will. And also Karen is monitoring the comments, the normal chat. So if you put a normal chat in there, Karen will see that as well. Okay, and with that said, I'm going to start Canva Live and start new session. Actually, what I'm going to do is copy the invitation, stop sharing just for a moment, and go into the chat and put the link in, because that will make it easier for all of you to get in. So if you click in there, it should work. Let me share my screen again. There you go. Okay, or you can, let's see, go to canva.live, and then the code is over here. It's BNEB 6GVE. Honestly, the easiest thing is to just click on that link. Oh, it's over here. It's at the top. If there are any problems with that, please let us know. Okay, cool. All right, so with that, let's officially start the program. So you've all heard, of course, about the golden rule: do unto others what you would want done to yourself. I'm probably butchering the way this is actually said officially, but you got the idea. And that is not a bad rule for us to live. If we think about how it is that we would like to be treated and we act that way, at the very least, we're going to be acting with good intentions. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the golden rule. However, sometimes the golden rule does not work. And I'm going to share just a little story. So as I shared in the beginning, I'm a professor. And you may have caught from right at the beginning my saying, hey, I used AI to change my picture, that I enjoy new stuff. I enjoy new toys. I enjoy shiny new objects. Also, I'm hugely sociable and extroverted. So I love classes, like if you put those things together, I love classes that are lively, that have a lot of interaction, and that have lots of bells and whistles and new technology and new tools and so on. I also love giving my students the opportunity to choose and to make selections, choose their own adventure, all that kind of stuff. And then I started noticing that, strangely enough for me, because that would be treating others the way that I would like to be treated, not all students like that. Some of my students, lo and behold, like lectures. I'm like, how can you possibly like lectures? That is kiss of death for me. Some of the students like lectures. They don't like it when I give them too many options. They get confused when I do. If I use too much technology, they don't like that. For example, right now, I could predict that some of you may think, oh, that's a great idea with a Canva Live, but uh, maybe I would rather use the normal chat, and I don't want to get into this newfangled system. So I'm just reading here. Somebody said, I'm an introvert and learned so much from you about how to lean into interaction in these sessions. Thank you. Thank you for that. I must confess that when I talk to some of my introverted students, they would rather not have that much interaction. And so what I did recently in my program, especially the undergraduate one, I'm now moving that to the graduate as well, is to give students an option. So if people sign up for one session of the class, and it's the same class, they get to work independently. They don't have to work in groups. Then they don't have to interact. They don't even have to come to class. Everything is online on their pace and on their own. And they watch movies and videos, and I create all the materials that way. And if they enjoy the interaction, then they come to class. And this way, I could actually treat people the way they wanted to be treated. So that's kind of what's underneath this conversation. Now, when I talk
sorry, just to make your point a little bit, there's about there's about half of the people are on Canva Live and half aren't. And that's
that
kind
is,
of,
yeah, that is an actually great point, Karen. And Karen and I actually, by the way, Karen and I go a long way. We've been friends and working together sometimes for over 20 years. And we just ran a session last month about how you collaborate with different personalities. And we're quite different, so it's kind of interesting. And Karen will probably laugh at how I enjoy bringing in new fangled things such as Canva Live. Okay, so moving on about personality. When I said that I like new toys and that I'm super extroverted, what I'm talking about is personality traits. Personality can be defined as patterns of thoughts, feelings, and tendencies, but we're talking about tendencies, not absolutes. I often tell students and clients, depending on the circumstances I'm in, that personality is a tendency, not an obligation. It is possible to stretch, and thus the title of this session. Also, personality is distributed normally. We're talking about being higher or lower than most of the population or being right in the middle. We're not talking about being one thing or the other, as with when we talk about, I don't know, type organized systems. And in fact, even when I say I'm an extrovert, what I actually mean is that when I complete a personality assessment, I'm more extroverted than, I can't really remember, but I want to say about 85% of the population. But I'm more original than probably about 99% of the population. Karen, that's the root of all our problems here. Um, so I have a very strong tendency towards originality. I have a strong tendency towards extroversion, but that doesn't mean I'm incapable of introverting away sometimes, or I'm incapable of being practical sometimes. I just have a strong tendency for that. Another good concept to think about in terms of personality is the idea that our trait tendencies give us energy for some things. So, for example, the fact that I have strong energy towards extroversion means that it takes a long time for me to want to introvert. I'm the one who goes to conferences, and at the end of the day, I'm back in the bar, not necessarily because I want to drink, but because I am anxious to see more people. And going back to the hotel room is like the kiss of death to me. So that means I have a very, very large energy for people. Some of you listening to me right now, I'm actually curious if you guys could go either to Canva or to the chat and say, if you are in a conference at the end of the day, after being in a bunch of sessions and a bunch of things, would you rather go back to your hotel room and kind of have some time on your own? Or would you go somewhere else, maybe to a dinner or a networking event to meet even more people? So can we have some input over there and how you normally are? Try to put my time in here to see where I am. There. And Karen, if anybody answers over there, let me know.
Okay, yeah. Do you want me to tell you what they're saying?
So I can see in Canva Live. Can you see in Canva Live on your end as well?
Yes.
But can you see somebody in there in chat that is not on Canva Live?
Yep, I have network. I have one person that said networking in the chat.
Gotcha. Okay. So I'm having a variety and I think you all can see it too, right? Can everybody see? Karen, can everybody see what's in the Canva Live?
Yeah. Well, I can. I'm assuming.
So
yeah.
Yeah, no, everybody can because that has nothing to do with being a presenter. So you can see that there's a variety of answers here. And somebody said, even during the conference, I find spaces and time to be by myself. It's to introvert again. And what I'm thinking of is that probably you have a certain amount of energy for extroverting. And after maybe being in a couple of sessions or meeting with people, then maybe you've used all that energy and you need a little time to regroup. So it's interesting to think about personality in terms of energy because it then shows you that it's not a you can do this or you can't do this. It's about how long can you do it before you need to recharge.
So we have a couple more. Well, I will also interact to learn more about how others felt about the topic and learn from them. And also, I'd like to go to dinner with some people I know and maybe a few others.
Gotcha. And you start seeing the variations in there. If you are a huge extrovert, it's likely that you want to go out whether you know the people or not. If you are a huge introvert, you might want to go to the room no matter what. If you're somewhere in the middle, maybe you want to go out with people you know, or maybe you want to go out one night and not every night. So as you see, there's kind of a big range over here. When I talk about extroversion, I'm going to go through this super fast because this is not really a session about personality per se. It's more about how to stretch tendencies. But I wanted to put everybody in the same boat, in the same, that's not boat, that's not the right word. What is it? The same line? I don't know. Give a common vocabulary, I guess. And bring out the 5-factor model of personality into the picture. Many of you may know about it already. The five-factor model is currently the most respected model in personality research. So if you do a bit of search, even with ChatGPT, if you use AI, because ChatGPT is getting far better anymore, and you just do a quick search for the five-factor model in research, you'll see that a lot of the recent research in personality uses the five-factor model. I'm kind of laughing at myself here because I'm using the word recent, and considering, Karen, that I met you 20 years ago and the research had started 20 years before that, I'm not sure it's that recent anymore. That kind of shows my age, but anyways. All right, so here are the five factors. The first is resilience, which has to do with the amount of energy you have for worry and stress. So if your resilience is low, then what that means is that your tolerance for stress may be low. Now, keep in mind that that does not mean non-existent. And it also depends on the situation and what stresses you. So a lot of times, by the way, I'm very, very low in resilience. I'm one of those, worry warts card carrying member of the I worry a lot, population. And a lot of times my students are surprised at that because they're like, wait a minute, you're not nervous, you're calm. Well, I'm calm when I'm teaching because that's not a stressor to me. But if you give me a stressor, I'm going to have low tolerance for that. So that's resilience. The people who are high in resilience, then they have much more tolerance to stress, and it takes longer until they start worrying or getting upset. Extroversion has a lot to do with sociability, whether you have a high tolerance for being with people. Openness to experiences has to do with originality, imagination, and how much you like new toys. I mentioned to you earlier that I'm like in the 99th percentile, so I like new toys pretty much most of the time, or 100% of the time. Whereas Karen here, Karen, do you want to say where you are in that?
Yeah, I'm more low to middle. So I'm much more practical. What are we going to do about, it's great to talk about ideas, but what are we going to do?
Hmm. Yeah. So as you can imagine, when Karen and I work together, we need to stretch and sometimes come to the middle because I would want to be talking about 2,000 different things that I want to do new. And Karen is like, okay, Cris, by now we have a list of 15 things. Which of these are we actually going to implement and how are we going to implement them? And by the way, I just noticed a typo here because I have opened this twice. What I actually meant with this one is agreeableness, which has to do, the reason that I have kind of like I don't know, somebody with the fist up, is that it has to do with your tolerance to, I guess, challenging things, how comfortable it is for you to debate, even when somebody maybe is higher in status than you are. It also has to do with other components such as service, how much you have the tendency to immediately go and help others, and so on. Once again, the word is agreeableness, but it doesn't mean that somebody who is low is disagreeable. It means they're probably more likely to challenge. And finally, conscientiousness has to do with focus, methodicalness, organization, planning, perfectionism, subtraits like those. All right, so that was super fast. If you want to find out more, for the last, oh, Karen, was it 10 years ago that you launched the Narrative Big Five? No, I can't
About
remember.
eight.
Eight?
Eight.
Okay, so about 10 was right. So this is the assessment that I normally use. So if you're interested in that, Karen, feel free to put your email in there because it won't go to me. It will go directly to her. If you ask me, I'm going to send you to her. So, because she's the author of the Narrative Big Five. Okay, so now we're going to get into the stretch piece, and I'm going to need your help. Audience participation here. You can use Canva Live or you can use the chat. The first question is this. If you tend to worry or get stressed easily, how do you wish others would stretch to support you? So if you are in that category, please enter here your thoughts about how you would want people to support you when you are stressed. And let me see if anybody's saying anything. By the way, for me, it can be as simple as acknowledging that I'm worried and nervous and need some time to talk about it. So it can be as simple as that, not brush it off. I'll give you a little time with
I
the
have
full
somebody
understanding. Go ahead.
typing. One says to reach out as an ear to learn. Another says being a good listener. Sometimes that's all I need, not someone that is immediately problem solving for me. Another, if I sense someone is stressed, I try to give them grace and not pressure for an answer, set a timeline.
Got it.
And you see some in the Canva Live as well.
Yeah, somebody saying I'm not in that category, but when I do get stressed, I need space. Somebody said, let me alone. I would like people to give me a little space to think it through before talking about it. So that give me space has been a theme in here, and some of us actually want to talk about it. And I would say it really depends on the situation. It depends on who it is that is involved and how much I trust them to have a conversation about that. One thing from a leadership perspective, one thing that you do want to keep in mind is that if you are in a leadership role and you tell one of your team members on a Friday afternoon, hey, I need to talk to you on Monday, you can probably bet that the people who are low in resilience are going to be worrying about that conversation the entire weekend. So you may not want to do that. So always consider that people may have different levels of worry than you do. Now, for the second question, if you're normally calm and even keeled, how do you wish others would stretch to meet your style? So now imagine that you work with me and I worry a lot and I tend to be kind of pessimistic. I will see every hole possible that could possibly go wrong before I start a project. How would you want me to deal with you if you are on the optimistic, everything is going to be fine, and you don't worry so much? How would you want me to stretch to work with you? And Karen, you're in that category, right?
Yes, I was just writing, let me know that you are stressed. Otherwise, I won't know necessarily.
Ah, this is so powerfully simple. And I've known you for 20 years and I've had 2,000 conversations and I didn't know that. So this is great. Next one, make your thinking visible and think and speak it through step by step rather than dump and clump it all together. That is a very good point because I could be kind of holding that inside me, especially if I'm thinking of my long-suffering boss, for example. Being my boss must be very hard. I am so sorry to my boss. But I would probably tend to hold back before I tell him that I'm super worried. And then at that point, I will have like 5 different things to tell him about rather than telling him as I go along. And I probably, even though I've been working with my boss now for a year or so, and he's a very, very nice gentleman, I have never once sat down with him and told him that I tend to worry. So this is one of those things that, you can't teach what is the English expression for that? I'm thinking that you can't teach the preacher to preach, but that can't possibly be right.
I
All
have a
right.
few more, Chris. Allow for additional time for me to process. And then another one is I think it's important to hear the pessimistic person, but ask them to give my idea a try. If that doesn't work, we can pivot.
Got it. And
Um,
that's a good point.
and then the last one is be a good listener. Encourage the person to speak and don't make assumptions. Allow for them to say how they feel and try to meet them where they are at the time.
Got it. Okay, thank you for that. And that listening part is particularly important to stretching, and that communication part is also particularly important in stretching because people are not going to necessarily know that that's the way you think. Stretching openness. Now, here's my next question. If you're highly imaginative and love change, how do you wish others would stretch to meet you? And by the way, differences in openness can cause quite a bit of conflict in the workplace because those of us who like new toys, and we can drive the people who are more practical pretty much bonkers. So, what would you want the people who are more practical than you to know? And just for time's sake, because I'm kind of here controlling my time, I'm going to just open to the other side too, which is if you prefer stability and practicality, how do you wish others would stretch to meet you? So go ahead and answer. Okay, so somebody said exhaust exploring possibilities before you start refining and eliminating. Okay, so let us brainstorm away. I think that's what I'm hearing it. Let's think about different ideas before you shut something down. Karen, do you see anything on your end?
Somebody's typing and I'm typing. I was going to say, specify what the time is being used for. So there's got to be a time for brainstorming and ideas. And for me, there needs to be also a time for we're being practical. We're saying what we need to do. We're making a plan.
Got it. Okay. A lot of this, I'm going to move on just out of time, but you see, I think you're starting to see patterns. A lot of this is about communication, and it's about one side is not better than the other. And also the idea that we can stretch. We don't need to be one way all the time. We can meet somebody else halfway. So here are some helpful tips for you to take home with you. The first is we mentioned the golden rule, treat others like you would want to be treated. The platinum rule is treat others like they want to be treated, which of course requires you finding out what it is that they want to begin with. So from a leadership perspective, you may want to have these conversations with the people you work with. Know your tendencies, know yourself. So if you know, for example, that one of your personality tendencies is really, really high, is really strong, keep in mind that by definition, most of the population is going to be lower than you. So there's a high chance that the people you're working with don't think the way you do. So then I'm seeing here Sharon H saying communication is key in both scenarios. It depends on who you're communicating with that determines how we respond to each other. As you're communicating with each other, know yourself. So have, I don't know, have a conversation, do some kind of assessment, do some kind of, there are a bazillion ways for you to do that. But you do need to understand what your tendencies are. The next thing is avoid judgment. We tend to judge the world by the way that we see it. Personality is kind of like the glasses you wear and you don't realize you're wearing. So I could say, oh, instead of saying Karen is practical and it's really good because she gets things done when we work together, I could say she is too conservative. She doesn't let me do anything. So it's important when you're talking about differences to avoid judgment. Okay. And oof, we're getting towards the end. Just for you to know, the next webinar is creating virtual games and activities for interactive training sessions. So if you're interested in that, when you see the slide, the link, you can click on that link. And it's also going to be, that information will be in the letter I will send you all. And then I think if I click on D here, I get drum roll. Yeah, I do. There is a handout that I'm going to send you also by email, but it gives you some ideas on how it is that you can stretch to meet different tendencies. I created that for you. So if you click on that QR code, you'll be able to get to the handout or wait for my email. This is again where the slides are. And that is it. This is, whoa, exactly 12:30. I'm always excited when that happened. I wanted to thank you so very much. I'm going to stop sharing now so that I can see you. I wanted to thank you so very much for being here. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for coming. Hope to see you in other webinars, and I'm not in a hurry. So if you want to ask me a question or stay behind, you can, but I wanted to make sure that I honored the time. And Karen, thank you so very much for being here. I didn't know that I needed another presenter, and I really did. So thank you for stepping here. And if you need any, yeah, go ahead.
Happy to do it. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. So let me know by email. I'll put my email here again. If you have any questions that I couldn't answer, whoops. berry.edu. Just send me an email if you have a question. And thank you so much, guys. And I think I can stop recording now.